Everton 0, Manchester United 1. The results are coming, but are we starting to see Michael Carrick's tactics losing their edge? Let's dig into it. Now, I first want to talk about Manchester United in possession and why it's stalling. Carrick's base shape on paper is a 4-2-3-1, but functionally it's not. In possession, Manchester United for me are clearly morphing into a 4-2-4 or maybe even a 4-4-2, and I think they're using two false nines. The front four of Mbeumo, Cunha, Amad and Bruno play with extreme fluidity. There's constant rotation, central overloads, interchanging lanes and no fixed reference points. And early on during Michael Carrick's reign as Manchester United manager, this caused chaos for opponents. But we saw last time against West Ham and we saw it again against Everton. Teams have adjusted. And instead of engaging with these rotations, they're doing the complete opposite. They're holding their defensive line. They're staying compact horizontally and refusing to be dragged out of shape. And this for me is key, because United's front four, they can rotate all they want, but if the back line does not follow them, the movements lose their destabilizing effects. And what we saw against West Ham and what we saw against Everton as well, they've basically just said, you know what? Have the ball, we're not jumping, we're not pressing aggressively, we're not chasing shadows to try to break us down. And in both games, United have struggled. And I want to now talk about the structural problem, or what I see as a structural problem. And specifically, I mean the no striker issue, because I've said in previous videos, and I'll just say it quickly now, United are sort of morphing into a 4-2-4 formation, and they play two deep false nines. And the lack of striker issue is where, tactically, this gets seriously quite interesting. Because without a proper number 9, or in this case, without playing Sesko, United don't have a fixed central reference, a player pinning centre backs, and a depth runner stretching the line vertically. Instead, we see normally Bruno and Cunha acting as the main forward. They're the furthest ones forward, but they both drop deep and they both actually drift out of position. We often see Cunha go into the left, Bruno go into the right, or even switching. And Mbeumo is floating inside and then he goes outside. Amad stays wider, but he still rotates as well. And what you get is four creators, but not one single anchor, or in other words, a focal point up top. And this rotating system, it sounds good in theory, and it has been good. Like, the results have been really good. The play has been entertaining, it's been quite exciting, and it's really fun to watch. But like I said, structurally, it has problems and it creates two big issues. And the first one is there's no occupation of the last line. And what I mean by this is the opposition centre backs, they're comfortable. They can just hold their line without being pinned or really physically engaged. And number two is there's no predictable forward outlet. For example, when Casemiro and Mainoo receive the ball under pressure in midfield, they can receive the ball, they can turn out, they can, bypass the press, but there's no obvious vertical option for them to pass to. And this is a huge problem because midfielders operate best when they have reference points. And when midfielders don't know who's making the run, who's holding width, who's occupying which half space, it creates hesitation. And hesitation at this level kills the tempo, it kills any rhythm. And that's why the build-up play in this game against Everton looked really disjointed. That's why there were so many loose passes. It's not just bad passing, it's spatial uncertainty. So we can all sit and moan. I'm sure everyone's moaning at, for example, Casemiro. He had quite a bad game. His passes were especially really loose. But the team, of course, needs chemistry, which is what I've tried to explain, and it's seriously lacking right now. So when you sit there and say, Casemiro was shit and Mainoo was anonymous, you need to take a little bit of a deeper look and try to think and explain why that happened. And I want to point out another little subtle issue that I've noticed. When both of the fullbacks advance, so Shaw often plays quite high up, and Dalot in the game against West Ham, he advanced a lot as well. He was actually really impressive. But with them two advancing and the front four playing quite narrow, United's defence structure becomes quite fragile. And when possession breaks down, the distances are quite large. And in the games against West Ham and Everton, they weren't brilliant, but they targeted the wide transition channels immediately. And we saw it against West Ham in particular. Like, their goal was just a transition, just go long to Bowen. He was out wide, he was open, and they scored from it. And the issue is when your wingers are coming inside and they're rotating and everyone's like moving around and there's no fixed points, and then your fullbacks also push high, you are relying heavily on Casemiro covering large zones, and you're relying on centre backs defending open spaces, and that's physically very demanding, especially for someone old like Casemiro, and it's very tactically risky. And here's like a key point that I want to highlight. Carrick's system works when Manchester United can dominate territory, but when the game becomes transitional, and what I mean by this is basically what what everyone's been saying, the low block. United have struggled with a low block for so long under Amrim, and they're doing it again under Carrick. When teams just set up defensively, they have their low block and they aim for transitions, the structure starts to look stretched and vulnerable. But I want to go back again to the front four issue, and I want to talk about like the player profiles that Manchester United have up top, and I'm going to call it the Maverick factor, because all four of them I see they're like Maverick kind of players. Bruno and Cunha are instinctive, they improvise, they play for big moments. They're not positional play purists, and they don't naturally like respect the zones of the football pitch. And of course that creativity is a huge weapon, but only when there's a stable structure underneath it. And when all four attackers are given freedom simultaneously, the attack will become, unpredictable for opponents, but also unpredictable for teammates. And that of course is a huge double-edged sword. Fluidity without, a proper structure, or, you could say hierarchy, it can look chaotic. And this is where you notice when Sesko comes on, the game changes. Because notice what happens when he enters. The centre-backs are pinned. The midfielders have a direct outlet. They have more confidence to just pass the ball forward. Crosses become more purposeful. And second balls, they become more structured. Like the Manchester United can set up to win those second balls off Sesko. And even when Sesko doesn't win every single duel, we saw it against Everton. Like he didn't win every single header. In fact, I haven't looked at the statistics, but it looked like when I was watching the game, he barely won any of the headers. But what it does do is it creates a reference for the rest of the team. And that's what I was talking about earlier. The midfielders, they don't know where the front four are going to be, but when Sesko comes on, they know, okay, I've turned my opponent, I can get my head up, I can just push the pass up straight to Sesko. I know where he's going to be, I know where that reference point is. And that of course changes the psychology of the team. Like I said, midfielders, they can play the ball forward earlier and more instinctively. Wide players, when Amad or Mbeumo or Cunha have the ball out wide, they know that they can just deliver the ball and where to deliver it. And the team shape, it like compresses around a focal point. And it's not just about the Sesko goal, it's about the sort of set up, the structure, the geometry of the Manchester United team. With a striker, the team is just so much better, vertically. It has more direction. And without one, everything just seems to flatten, and the attacks, despite all the players interchanging, they become quite predictable and easy to defend. And this, of course, is where the real debate starts to begin with Michael Carrick. Carrick's philosophy so far has been extremely player-centric, and it's been good. The results have been good. It's been fun to watch, like I said before. It's exciting. It looks like it's going in the right direction, right? Just put the players in the best roles and let them express themselves. And this worked brilliantly, in the beginning. But elite coaching isn't just about expression. It's about layering structure on top of your talent, or on top of the players that you have available. And right now, what I'm seeing, I believe, is a need for not an evolution, not a tactical evolution, but tactical progression, I would say. We need to see Carrick now implementing new ideas. I believe the system that he's using is starting to become unstuck. Like teams are seeing, we just sit back, we just put, a strong low block and then create transitions, counter them. And that is basically the blueprint to beat the Michael Carrick team. Like the blueprint is now out there. And the question that I have is, do we need to see Michael Carrick now have a tactical, evolution? I don't want to call it an evolution because, it doesn't need to reinvent the wheel, but, tactical progression on from what we're seeing. So my questions to you are, does Carrick need to introduce more positional discipline? Or does he just double down on what he's doing now and go for pure instinctive creativity and player-centric approach? Because what I've seen against West Ham and Everton is they're showing us something important. Compact blocks and vertical counters can blunt the Manchester United side, like I just said. And I'm worried that the wins are sort of papering over the cracks now. And tactically, I feel like there are questions forming. So my final thoughts are, I'm still positive. Carrick deserves credit. The run has been excellent. Manchester United looks set to get into the Champions League, which is fantastic. But now comes phase 2 for Michael Carrick. Does he have the skills, the ability as a head coach to continue this run when teams have sort of worked out the blueprint on how to beat him? Can he adjust to this, or has his system and has Michael Carrick now reached his ceiling? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing, as it would really help the channel. Cheers!